Welcome back. I'm going to continue with how disability carriers evaluate disability as of the date last worked. Now, we're assuming that you were actively at work as of the date you last worked. So we're going to get past that defense. But we're going to talk about the issue of disability as of the date you last worked. I'll tell you, one of the first things that an adjuster is going to look at when you apply for your benefits is whether you had treatment on or around the date you last worked and whether or not you were disabled. Why is this important? Well, many disability policies have a provision that require you to be under appropriate care and treatment of a medical provider during a period of disability. Therefore, a certification of disability from the date you last worked, or the last date of active service, through the benefit waiting period or the elimination period is required. Now, the adjuster is going to get a copy of the medical information that documents your inability to perform the material and substantial duties of your job or occupation due to your disabling medical condition as of the date you last worked. The adjuster is going to confirm, one, that you were in active service as defined by the policy before you became disabled, and they're then going to, as I said, try to certify that you are in fact disabled as of the date you last worked. But there are problems that can arise when the policyholder first got medical treatment for the disabling condition after the last date worked. In other words, they were working, they were having problems, but without consulting a doctor, they stopped working, and now they're filing a claim for disability benefits. You can understand why the carrier would be legitimately, in my view, asking, well, how could you be disabled as of the date you last worked because you hadn't seen a doctor and no doctor had taken you out of work? I'm often asked, what are the factors that an adjuster will consider in determining the date of disability? Now, that's pretty clear. If you've been in an accident or an injury, a car accident, for example, the disabling event and the date of disability are generally pretty clear. It's the date of the accident. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. So it can be hard to certify a date of disability when the policyholder stops working and doesn't seek medical treatment until after the date they were last insured, or had an ongoing medical condition but may or may not have gotten medical treatment immediately before or after the date they last worked, or they contacted their treating medical provider, couldn't get an appointment, but just felt they couldn't continue to work. In all of these examples, and in the absence of actual treatment on or around the last date worked, the adjuster will try to do a hocus pocus and determine what restrictions and limitations reasonably existed as of the last date worked, so that they can determine if the claimed date of disability is reasonably supported. Now, we're going to talk about one of the other folks that are become involved in this analysis is what I call the liar for hire in-house physician. So what does an adjuster do, or what should they do? Well, first, they should consider the total situation, and that's probably the last thing they do. They should consider whether there's any medical information, including restrictions and limitations, leading up to the date you last worked. They should consider whether or not there's any medical information after the last date you worked, including the nature of that information. They're going to look at such things as your subjective complaints, your history as to why you stopped working, what the physical examination shows, whether there's any objective findings that would sort of correlate with your decision to stop work. They're also going to be looking at medical information in terms of addressing your current treatment, the course of the treatment, and how that treatment has impacted your ability to work. They're going to also look at your medical records and see, has the doctor, the treating doctor, changed your restrictions and limitations after you stopped working and has got you out completely, or may now be releasing you to some form of work. They'll look at information from your employer regarding your occupational duties and whether or not there was any modification in the duties or the hours that you might be working, or the number of days that you were working, or the way that you were working. And so they're going to ask the employer, were you able to do the material and substantial duties of your occupation before the date you last worked? And of course, if you could, that's going to create an issue. They're going to ask information about any personnel issues you had, like, were you going to be fired? Was there going to be a layoff? Was there personal things that you know were going on in the person's life that would have led them to stop working, notwithstanding the fact that they claim they're disabled? They're going to ask your employer about that last date worked, the number of hours worked. They're going to ask your employer, was there any loss of wages? Did you change the person's rate of pay, or because of the change in their hours, were they earning less? And if so, what? And they're going to be talking to you. They want to know the reason that you are giving for stopping work on a particular date. Now, I told you there was going to be another player. That's the liar for hire medical review provider. And you can be assured that all of the medical information is going to be reviewed by that liar for hire disability insurance carrier doctor. And you can also be assured that if the basis of the restrictions and limitations or the reasons why you left work on a particular date isn't clear, you're going to get that call from the adjuster asking for clarification. Well, I think you should consult with an experienced ERISA disability attorney before you stop work and apply for benefits. In my view, you should definitely consult with an experienced ERISA disability attorney before you return that adjuster's phone call. The answers that you give to these questions can make or break your claim, and they can be darn hard to fix after the fact. Why? I know I've had to try to fix some of these. So what are the questions that the adjuster are likely to ask you about the reason you stopped working on a particular day? First, was there an exacerbation of some long-standing medical condition you had? How did that exacerbation impact your ability to perform the material and substantial duties of your occupation? How did your medical condition deteriorate? Did that deterioration impact your ability to perform the material and substantial duties of your occupation? If your medical condition remained the same, they want to know, why is it that you're now unable to continue working due to that medical condition while you've been working for quite some time before you stopped working with this condition? What changed? And they're going to ask, was there any change in your duties, or did the change in the workplace that impacted your ability to continue working? Were you transferred shifts? Did your job duties change in some way? Now, that's just the beginning of the questioning. The adjuster is going to ask you and your employer whether there are any non-disability workplace issues or factors that occurred prior to the last date you worked. They're fishing. They're fishing for a reason to deny the claim on the basis that your medical condition had nothing to do with your decision to stop working. So the adjuster is going to ask you, what's your job or occupation? Is that job subject to elimination? Was there going to be some downsizing? Has anybody told you, or have you told anybody that you just didn't want to do the job anymore? You just didn't want to work anymore. You were tired, you wanted to retire, or you couldn't stand your supervisor and the harassment. Were there documented performance issues that weren't related to your claimed disabling medical condition? Like you were having a run-in or dispute with coworkers or your supervisors. Now, when the adjuster has gathered that medical information and has talked to you and your employer, the adjuster, as I said, is going to consult with the medical provider. They're going to talk with that liar for hire medical provider or your treating physician to determine whether the medical records support a conclusion that your claimed restrictions and limitations are appropriate, that you're unable to perform your occupational duties as claimed. And they will probably consult with the senior claims management team, their supervisor, prior to making a decision as to whether to pay or deny your benefits. So you can see why it's so important that you get medical treatment before you stop work, that you have your doctor support your claim with objective restrictions and limitations and the basis for those restrictions, that you document any changes in your occupational duties and difficulties performing them, and that you also address any personnel issues, because they're all reasons why the adjuster will be looking for or looking at to twist the information and to justify a claims denial. Remember, once your claim is denied, you'll only have 180 days in which to file an appeal of your wrongfully denied claim. That appeal is the trial of your case. I think it's time for you to hire an experienced ERISA disability attorney before you stop working and apply for benefits, or when you get that call from the adjuster asking for more information, and certainly if your claim has been denied. In the next segment, I'm going to talk to you about how the disability carrier will claim that you aren't disabled during and beyond the elimination period. So stay tuned.
Are you a professional with questions about your individual disability policy? You need the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. This book gives you a comprehensive understanding of your disability policy, with tips and to-dos regarding your disability application that will assist you in submitting a winning disability application. This is one you won't want to miss. For the next 24 hours, we are giving away free copies of the Disability Insurance Claim Survival Guide for Professionals. Order yours today at disabilityclaimsforprofessionals.com.